So we are just going to get right into the middle of things, and that's starting off with this year's REVERE competitions. And basically, the big news here is that everything is now a REVERE Award. And for those who may not be as familiar with the competition, the REVERE stands for Recognizing Valuable Educational Resources. And this was the new program name we came up with last summer. And that really better explains what the competition is doing, like literally recognizing high quality, exceptional resources for teaching and learning. So we're really running with that now and really excited that we can bring everything under the REVERE moniker. And within that, we do have some renamed competitions, and you see them here. They're the REVERE Awards for the classroom, the REVERE Awards for beyond the classroom, for magazines, and for integrated marketing. And again, these names really better delineate what the competitions are. The magazine competition is for magazines. The classroom competition, the classroom competition is what was formerly known as the Distinguished Achievement Awards, as well as the Golden Lamps. And so this is the competition for products made specifically for learners or educational professionals to use during what we're calling formal instruction or class time or trainings. And classroom is we're using it in the broad sense. It doesn't have to be a physical, traditional class in a school with desks and all of that sort of thing. It includes online classes, blended courses and hybrid courses, flipped classrooms, and sort of anything and everything. But really, it's focused on the resources that are created specifically for these learning times, and that are also marketed and purchased by districts and schools on that sort of cycle, and not necessarily just, you can't go out and get them off a shelf somewhere. If you did want a competition for products that you could sort of buy right now in like a bookstore or a learning resource store like a Lakeshore or something like that, that's really the area for beyond the classroom materials. So these are resources and products that are used more informally, and they weren't created specifically for learning. That's sort of a byproduct. They may have been created just to, for reading or for fun, like games and that sort of thing, but they also include components that have educational value. And this area is really huge, so we're going to dig into it a bit more, but it is a lot. As I mentioned, magazines includes all sort of serial publications or anything that's updated on a regular interval, including newspapers, journals, blogs, as well as what you think of as a print magazine, but open to all formats, digital, apps, again, paper, and we're calling it magazines because that's sort of the term everyone is really familiar with. For now, as it changes, we might always reevaluate, but we just moved away from periodicals into magazines for better name recognition there. And finally, the integrated marketing competition was formerly known as the Beacon Awards, and we're going to talk more about this in the integrated marketing section, but we're really focused now on whole campaigns here, and so we're really excited. It is a huge departure from the old Beacon Awards with their multiple categories, but there's a lot of opportunity here to really recognize education marketing that's being done on a larger scale. So we're going to go now through each competition. I have a lot of notes, but I'm going to run through them just so you're familiar with what we mean when we talk about each of these things with their categories and potentially subcategories. So there might be a lot of information, but again, you can always get the slides or listen back, or it is all available online at our website, revereawards.org, and in the call for entry. So if there is something missing, it is available, and you can always, of course, type in your question in the chat. So we're starting off with the classroom competition, which is the most complex because it includes 3 categories, which are in dark green, as well as specific subcategories within each that vary depending on the category. These probably look familiar to anyone who has entered into last year's REVERE Awards or even further back, because they are still very much aligned with what were the Distinguished Achievement Awards. But as you can see, what I've tried to do is include the most important information, what they are, what an entry here must include, as well as some of the big changes. So quickly, a review, whole curriculum. These are products that overall are the most complex because they are the primary instructional program in a subject. And by complex, I kind of mean they have the most components involved with them usually, and they can they can have a lot of different aspects. Because this is really a program you could use to teach a full course on a subject, and you would be able to get all the information needed from that course in these materials. Many of you are probably familiar, of course, but these must include both teacher materials, teacher guides of any kind, and student materials, either books, workbooks, and anything else, as well as alignment to standards, whatever they might be in your particular area, as well as assessment guides of some sort. Again, not everything will have as advanced assessment as others, but it must have some sort of tool that allows for assessment and testing in some form. It's also recommended, though, that if this program, the program is set in full. So if there are additional supplemental materials that would come if someone ordered this, like even apps and games, primary sources and other texts, maps, sort of any sort of thing, that those get sent as well. They don't always all have to be sent, but as in the sample, but just to let everyone know the full scope of the program. And the subcategories here actually focus on the 4 subjects of math, reading, science, and now social sciences and history. Moving into supplemental resources, these are probably the most traditional. This is probably the most traditional category in the awards, but supplemental here means it is a resource or resources that augment the main instructional program. It also includes materials that are used in more elective courses that aren't required, as well as resources with themes or topics that are better suited for a shorter term of study. So by that, I mean something on, say, plants may be really a combined sort of full curriculum, but because plants would only be a unit of a larger study in science for that year, it will become a supplemental resource just because it allows for better competition here, and it would not compete well against the full year curriculum that are entered in the other area. A lot of this can be a case-by-case basis, and which is why I'm around for any of those questions. So if you do have a question on that and you're not sure, it's best to contact me before submitting, just because then we can really answer that and get it set ahead of, so you don't have to go back in and edit the application. I do see a question, which is a great one, about programs for college and career readiness. These would indeed fall into supplemental resources, and actually the category that had been sort of collecting resources on that topic has been renamed for social, emotional, and character learning, but it still includes college and career readiness resources. So that's an excellent question. And I can follow up if you have any follow-ups. These entries must include teacher instructions or manuals, as well as student materials and alignment to any standards. But they don't have to include assessment tools, because many of them might not, and they may not also include any ancillary materials. But those can be sent as well, just in case, and we can always read through them here and decide what is necessary. Speaking of new categories, supplemental resources has about 12 subcategories, so it's by far the largest. And I did want to specifically note that we now have a subcategory for what we're calling digital literacies, which we're really excited about, as well as news and current issues. It also has several updated subcategories alongside social emotional learning, including a renamed reference and research subcategory, which was formerly digital libraries and portals, as well as a return of the arts subcategory, so anything handling fine arts or music, any of that sort of thing, is now also back. So professional resources also used to be known as professional development, but this is sort of a bit more descriptive, but it's still the same. It's still the category for resources that support educators throughout their careers, and that also included in there is actually educators, as well as sort of the education community within a school or a community, like with dealing with parents or other community members and all that sort of thing. So it's really a big category that's there's a lot happening here, and we're really excited that we were able to update the subcategories to better reflect that. So they're actually all new at least in names only, but instruction and classroom practice, a broadened leadership category to include not only like administration, but also teacher leadership and other sorts of things. People and populations, school climate, and a return of the subject areas subcategory for professional development tools on a specific topic. And resources here are usually pretty straightforward. They've got to include the material that you know, an educator or other person using it would see, whether that's a book or it's a platform that they're using, or a website, you know, clearly they have to be able to sort of see what an educator would see. But also, I felt it was important to include that if a professional resource entry was something that included a facilitator guide, because it was being used in that form where there was sort of an administrator or another faculty person really leading the PD, that should also be included in an entry so that judges can sort of see what a teacher would see and then see what the facilitator was using as well. This has been a very quick run through here, and not all of the subcategories are listed in all the places, but again, they are online. However, as I noted at the bottom, there are a few big changes here in that each of these three categories also includes an innovation subcategory, and that's open to any subject resource in that category. So you don't have to, it doesn't have to be on anything. It could just be sort of any sort of whole curricula that's innovative will enter there. Any supplemental resource, et cetera, et cetera. And this will allow us to better recognize innovations of different product types and with different purposes, so we can really find innovation within whole curriculum, innovation within PD, innovation within supplemental resources, and better compare what's happening there, because they are very advancing in different ways and at different paces. So there is not a separate innovation competition. It is going to be within the classroom and beyond the classroom competitions. Also, what you may have noticed that is missing is the Golden Lamp competition as its own separate entry fee and registration. The Golden Lamp isn't gone, though. It is included in the classroom registration now. So winners in each subcategory will compete for the Golden Lamp. So all 5 of the whole curriculum winners will go head-to-head for the whole curriculum Golden Lamp. Same for professional resources. There are 5 subcategories and supplemental. And this was an effort to really increase the equity and the competition of the Golden Lamp, to be able to say we call it the best of the best in the product type, and this will make sure that everyone is on the Golden Lamp track when they enter, and that the winners of each subcategory are being properly vetted for the Golden Lamp and aren't missing out because perhaps they couldn't afford a separate Golden Lamp registration or any of that. So this is a really exciting new way of doing this competition, and we really believe it will bring out the best of the best. But if there are, of course, any questions on more of the motivations or how it will work, please let me know. We are going to move on to the Beyond the Classroom area. This competition is in its 2nd year, and again includes materials with educational components, features, themes in products though that weren't created specifically for formal learning or instruction. They can be found sort of in the consumer marketplace, whether that's an app store or a brick-and-mortar store, and they also don't include any teacher or formal instructor guides. I was trying to find a better way to put that, but there's not really one that I could think of right now. But basically, one of some of the confusion there last year in its initial year was that we were reaching out to people and they thought that they wouldn't be eligible because they don't include a teacher's guide. But we are really focused here on these products that are being used, you know, at home or in the car, or just really outside of school. And so there isn't going to be really a teacher overseeing that, and they wouldn't need anything like that. However, that doesn't mean it can't include sort of limited provisions for some sort of adult facilitator. So like particularly perhaps a parent or guardian, but also maybe a tutor or someone running a class. Examples of that would be like at the end of a book, like book club questions or a glossary, instructions for different projects that might require adult oversight and anything else in that way, but it wouldn't be this full sort of lesson plan guide with different standards and all of that. We also do have 4 categories here. Last year it was just one open competition, and those are learn, play, relate, and innovate. And I'm just going to quickly run through them as best as possible. Learn is for items that do have more explicit learning goals, but are still being used sort of informally. Some examples that might help would be like a lumosity or an app that, you know, allegedly enhances brain memory or recognition, or even things like SAT books that students buy in the bookstore, as well as things like nonfiction books that are really teaching the reader about a subject, whether it's a person or an event or something like that. Play is for products focused on doing. Basically, it also includes games, projects, or activities, and in all media, video games are obviously a hot topic, but it could be board games, it could be toys, just other apps, manipulatives, potentially activity books, etc. Relate is the place for products that really support their readers or learners or users in building healthy, positive relationships, and also better understanding their environments and experiences in relation to themselves and others. It may be quite similar in some ways to the social emotional subcategory in the classroom competition, but it's sort of a bit broader, and it may be anything from, again, like emotions and personally being able to handle emotions or bodies or that sort of thing, but also relationships with peers, with parents and other adults, the world, especially, you know, in areas of cultural differences. Those would all really be under the relate category over one of the other 2 or 3. And innovate is, again, the innovation category for beyond the classroom. Products that are sort of breaking new ground in this area. And like all of the innovation categories or subcategories, they are not limited to technology, and I think that's important to just remind everyone that it might be a tech innovation, but it can also be sort of a new method of portraying something, or new research that has been done. And so just new methods and ways of passing information along or tackling a subject are still innovations and should definitely be entered in the innovation areas. All right. Now we're moving to magazines. Again, this is any publication that is published on a regular interval, digital or print. And this is an updated competition that has been pulled from what was the periodical category within the old Distinguished Achievement Awards. So if we had kept it the same, you would actually have been seeing magazines or periodicals referenced in the classroom category. But this summer, we decided it was time to really pull them out into their own competition, because they are very different from all of those other materials in many ways. Some ways they're very similar, but their categories are very focused on both whole publication, but also editorial and design tenets of magazine publishing, but also includes sort of the educational values. So they have a different rubric, and having a magazine article or even like a cover compete in a competition with whole curricula just was very disproportionate, and we're really excited that we can put these in their separate area and be clear that they should enter here, and that we would like to continue to see this area grow, even if people have been thinking the magazine industry is shrinking, that there are new publications out there, especially online and in app form. So just a couple points here are that there are 12 new and improved categories, including a best overall editorial and best overall design winner, not just for the single issues like there used to be, but for sort of the whole year's editorial or design. There is, of course, still what was called Periodical of the Year is now Best Overall Publication, and that continues, as well as some updated age divisions. They haven't been gotten rid of, but we just wanted to move from 4 to 3 to keep competition robust, and they are in for magazines targeted at either ages 3 to 11 or grades pre-K to 6, and ages 12 plus and grade 7 plus, and then professional magazines, which are really targeted at again, usually teachers or administrators or just other adults in the education community that are working with students in any form. Magazines are welcome to enter in other areas. If it's a classroom magazine and you want to enter it as a supplemental resource in the classroom competition, you just choose your subcategory and go for it, as well as in the Beyond the Classroom competition for perhaps other magazines. It's really open, and there are several options, but the requirements might be a bit different depending on which competition you're entering, so it's just important to check that ahead of assuming anything. And before I forget, we do handle a lot of magazine articles, and we don't accept those in print form. We accept them as PDF uploads on the application form, and so those must be uploaded with the form in one PDF. For something like a department which has multiple issues, multiple issues it needs to submit, just combine them all into one and upload it as one, and that way the judge can just sort of scroll through, as well as an image. And ideally, this is really the, again, maybe just a JPEG of the cover, even if you're submitting a PDF of the cover, but an image of the first page or spread of an article is ideal. If that's not possible, a picture of the magazine cover will do as well. But these are the things that go up on our gallery and are used at the awards gala. So to show, even if they can't read the article, but to show that first page or spread is really helpful and colorful and gives people an idea of what it was. A new question came in, can one product be submitted to more than one competition. Yes, of course, competition, or it's really open to similar to magazines for other things. If a product is for math and science, it can be entered in its area both in math and in science, or other things, reading and special educational needs, or reading and ELL. A product could enter in both innovation as well as its subject area category. So it's really only dependent on both one's budget and but also the fit of a product within the competition. And I just say that because it's best to think critically about that. And I actually have that on a future slide, but I'll say it now, just that it fits and will compete well in the category that is chosen. And those are really case by case again, so that is exactly the sort of thing that I am happy to answer in email form or on the phone and sort of discuss one-on-one. That is all for magazines right now. We're just going to quickly talk about integrated marketing, which, as I mentioned, was formerly the Beacons. We're really encouraging any past Beacon entrants to continue with this competition. It's a revamped, refocused competition that really is focused on multimedia campaigns, which you're probably already doing if you have, a website plus 2 other things for a product. So this really allows an entry to be about one campaign's whole story. It needs to include at least 3 of the methods used, whether that was brochures or email marketing or direct marketing, social media, websites, newsletters, etc. But it also must include data and results to show what happened for those. So anything, anything that sort of includes like click-throughs and response rates and a bunch of numbers, that needs to be included so that the judges can see if it really worked or not. And that's really the focus of this competition. It's not on the product being marketed, it's on the marketing of the product. And there are 3 categories here that are based on campaign budget size to allow both those with smaller budgets and those with larger budgets to still compete in a more equitable situation. It's those with a budget of less than $15,000, those with a budget of between $15,000 and $75,000, and then those with a budget of $75,000 and up. And this year, the integrated marketing finalists and winners will be vetted and announced. The winners will be announced at the gala and not at the separate, what was the separate Beacon luncheon. It's all going to be done at the evening event this coming June. So we're really hoping that we'll tie everything, keep everything together, and that know that everyone will be welcomed and can hopefully then also attend the function. That is all right now on marketing as well. I know we are almost more than halfway through the hour, so I think we're doing all right. A few quick points on eligibility rules and guidelines. It's pretty much all outlined here, but it's important to know this because otherwise, especially eligibility-wise, you could be easily disqualified and potentially lose your entry fee if you're not paying attention here. So just wanted to review the changes that have been made to eligibility. As always, products that have been launched or copywritten or any of that in 2014, this past year, are eligible in all competitions. The caveats come in that innovation and integrated marketing entries are limited to 2014. So 2014 marketing campaigns for integrated marketing and launched innovation products from 2014. The exception there is if a product has been significantly upgraded in 2014. And basically the rule is if you've entered an innovation previously, you cannot enter again with the same product unless it has clearly been updated, and you have to outline that in your entry statement to say this is what's new and this is why it's innovative. In the classroom, other classroom, beyond the classroom, magazine categories, any previous entries, particularly in classroom and beyond the classroom, you know, anything in 2014 is fair game. But we also understand that there are things, products that have been on the market and continue to be on the market, both consumer and school levels, that may not have launched in this past year, but that people are still using and still liking and are still quality. So if they have not been previously entered in the REVERE Awards, or what were previously known as the AEP Awards, they are also eligible to enter with a copyright before 2014. And that really opens up the competition, and I'm happy to answer any questions on viability of anything that might be a bit older, and anyone who hasn't perhaps previously entered, so isn't as familiar with what's going on. So I should also mention, which I didn't include in there, that magazine entries are also 2014 entries only. That includes December, January issues on both ends, but everything else needs to have a 2014 issue date. Rules, there aren't a ton of rules other than it is important to include all of your information on the entry form. That's really what the judges see, and separate from any samples that might come into the office, that is what they use to look at everything. And to keep giving them everything in one big chunk is the best way to ensure everything is being seen properly. So just make sure you fill out the form completely and correctly, and we'll go into that in a couple minutes. If you do have a print sample or a print component of a larger sample, 4 copies need to be sent per entry. So if you're entering that same product in multiple competitions or multiple categories, you do need to send more copies than just the 4. There are other specific requirements for different competitions and categories, specifically magazines. So I strongly encourage everyone to read the call for entries, which is a PDF that's up on revereawards.org. It goes into detail and lays it out so that you know what is what. And then from there, if you do have any questions, you can contact me. One thing I forgot to mention was series, whether that's a series of books or other kits or things. Series are eligible if one or all of the contained components have been released or updated in 2014. So that when I get the questions like that, people aren't sure because some of the stuff may have been older and hasn't been updated. But as long as something has been new, something new has come out, or something has been updated, they are eligible. Again, a case-by-case basis might be the way to handle that sort of thing, so please contact me if you do have any questions. And basically that is what other guidelines means. I'm available with any of that. Prior to submission is ideal because then we can just talk through it, but even after submission you can go back and edit your entry form if necessary, and we can always work through things. If you do have a particularly large, bulky, heavy product, please contact me first. We probably will be able to whittle down what you need to send as a sample, and you probably don't have to send all of it. You may not have to send as many copies, just to cut down on clutter, both in my end and in the office, but also for the judges to not overwhelm them with this huge thing. The same kind of applies with app codes. If an app is free, then it can just go in there. If there are various ways to ensure that judges can get apps, so gifting them and using URLs. But if it is going to be done by code, which usually have a 30-day expiration date, it is best to leave that blank and just contact me, and I will be in contact when we need them. Because if they're submitted in December or previous, like tomorrow, the judges don't start working until January, and so already just have to come for more, and those will be wasted, and we don't want to do that. So basically, if you have a question, just definitely let me know, and so we can just cut down on any confusion and any waste. All right, so now we're heading into some of the tips, and I've already mentioned a couple of these, like clearly thinking about your product's fit ahead of entering competition. But of course, the best way to start and stand out is that the product is already great and high quality, and the judges will see that. But these are sort of some other tips that really help ease us all through the process, including, I'm just going to mention some highlights. Keeping the information easy to read and understand, so succinctly just explaining what it's trying to do, and allowing the judges to see the highlights, maybe what's updated or what its features are, what it does that no one else does, but then really allowing them time to explore the product, because anything you include either in instructions or in ancillary materials that you might upload, you might have a demo video or an additional PDF. Those are great, and if they are helpful, they should be submitted. But just remember that that is time the judge will be looking at a video or a PDF versus the product itself. Treating judges like real users, that means just making sure you send in full samples, like anything that a teacher or administrator might look for. That's what the judges are looking for. So if it's not there, they think it might be missing, and we don't want that. But also, that could be physical or digital. If they're logging into a portal, you have setting up things like demo classrooms, demo students, even if it's just a couple, just to allow them to see what a teacher would see at some level. And also not have to take the time to set up the class and the student and their own usernames and passwords. Again, focuses them on the product and what it does and what you want them to sort of see from it. And there, a lot of people do, and it's on the form, there's a place for the entry URL as well as username and passwords. And many people set them up for us and include them there. But in other instances, sometimes I'll set it up, and we'll have just a general REVERE Awards login that we can all use. So if that's a possibility, it's something to sort of contact me about or note on the form. And anything that will get them the time to really dive in is appreciated. Now we are hopefully going to dive into the entry form, but because I have one more slide, I just wanted to show it and make sure that you all see this information. Again, the website is revereawards.org. It will send you to the Revere section of the Learning Group website. You can also view this year's winners and finalists at the reveregallery.org and sort of see what other people were doing that stood out. You can follow us not only by email list, but also at REVERE Awards on Twitter. We do run Twitter specific promotions. So if you do follow and see something, or engage with us, you could get a discount code or something else. And of course, my email and phone are there for any questions at all. Prices are also up. They start at $150 or $200 for members, and $200 or $250 for non-members, depending on the competition and the time period. So you want to enter now until November 14th to get the lowest rate. On November 15th, it's going to go up $50 for everyone, and the same thing will happen December 15th. There are also going to be membership discounts. So if you're not a member of the Learning Group or AAP, and you want to take advantage both for awards and potentially in other areas, please contact me and I will direct you to the right people to talk to. And an updated member list will be online at the website, just in case you're unsure of what your membership status is, because that will be a question on the form, and so we want to cut down on any errors, so that will be available pretty soon as well. All right. I am going to just exit out of that and pull up this window, and I believe you all are still seeing it and would let me know if you can't. So we're just quickly going to run through some key things. I'm not going to fill it out, the entry form out, but I am going to just sort of scroll through and show some highlights. The first of which is that this link you see and the form in general is run through WiseHive. It is not tied to your AAP member login or anything like that. So you may need to create a new account if you haven't entered before, or you may need to check your login from last year. But it is not your AAP member login. Anyone can sign in for an account, so you don't. It's not tied to your company or anything. It's tied to a person. It is highly recommended that you use either like Firefox or even Chrome or Safari over Internet Explorer, just for full functionality. And this screen will be updated just as we get everything confirmed to show what browser requirements work best. So even if you are using Firefox, if you're using a really old version, you may need to update just to get everything fully functional. And that cuts down on some of the wonky bugs that can sometimes pop up inside, but it's not a requirement. It's just a strong recommendation. We're just going to log in, and you can see we've already started some drafts, and if you did so, they would be here. You can edit them. So again, even after submitting them, you can edit, but you can also save, start a draft, save it, and walk away, and then come back and finish it. You can log in and print it, and you can remove it, which is deleting it. So if you are starting a new one, that also means you can just sort of fill them all out and then submit all at once and pay all at once. You don't have to submit individually or pay individually, but you do have to fill out an entry form for each registration. So even if you're entering the same product with the same information in multiple areas, you do have to fill out a form for each of those areas. When a workaround for that comes, we will take advantage of it, but for now it is the best way to ensure that your the application goes to the right place. So this is the form in general. It's not super long, but basically starting at the top with entrant information, that is whoever's filling out the form, and please fill out all the required fields at least. But you will be, as you notice, asked if your company or the company you're entering on behalf of is an AAP member. And it's a yes, no, but it will determine the right price and all of that. So if you're not sure, please contact me ahead of submitting it and paying, because then we can take care of any issues and get it set up with the proper price ahead of time. The competition will depend on sort of what you're entering, and things will drop down. Like if you're entering in classroom, you'll get to see a category list, and the 3 of those will show. And then based on your choice there, a subcategory list will show up. It's pretty straightforward. The only note I really have here is that if you clicked on classroom right now and you realized, oh, I didn't mean classroom at all, I want to enter, and beyond the classroom. The best way to just sort of get back to the top without any weird things happening is to make sure the subcategory field is the top blank one, the category field is also blank, and then the competition field again is blank. So you'll see the category, subcategory field disappeared, and that's what we want to happen. You want to start sort of fresh like this, and then you can choose beyond the classroom, and that way the right categories will drop down and populate. So say we are doing this for now. This is where you enter the entry name. Please be clear and concise. This is what goes on the web and at the gala and any sort of written or written and web materials. Please choose your target audience correctly, and be strategic as much as possible, just because if a product is open to grades, K through 12, that just that's just a very wide swath, and so if it is able to be tailored a bit more, it means we can find a judge, a highly qualified judge for that area, and that they will be able to look at it with a very clear and distinct lens. Sometimes the broader things that's an advantage, but sometimes it's a disadvantage, particularly if the product is, more geared toward the lower grades or the higher grades. Product statements are required. That's the mission or goals or objectives of a product, as well as, but not required are the entry instructions. If you are entering in integrated marketing or innovation, a separate additional box will drop down for you to talk about your innovative product's innovative qualities or the results of your campaign, and that is required. Everything, those two have a 250 word count, the product statement and the additional statement, and the entry instructions is actually at 500. So plenty of time, but please be concise. Based on your media, there's print and digital, or PDF. Digital means you'll get a few more questions you do need to answer. But basically, if it's digital only or PDF only, it means everything about your entry is in this form, both on the form and then any links directing out to, access or samples. And so you won't be sending anything to us in physical form. But if you do click on the others, print only or print and digital, both, we will be looking out both for the form and also for something to show up at the office. From there, you also see places to upload additional PDFs or videos that might enhance your application, as well as the image and some fine print. And from there, as I mentioned, you can save and continue. You can save and start another. You can submit. You can do pretty much anything. You can just go back to the menu. But as I said, also you can edit after you've submitted it, but you just have to then resubmit. Once you have submitted, you will pay by credit card or check, and you'll get to choose. Once you click checkout, the drop down will ask you, and you will see the form. If you do have a discount code, I wanted to mention that there is a place for any discount codes, but that you will need to click the update cart link, which is next to that field, to get the code to work. So don't just type it in and then continue filling out the form and hit submit. It won't have taken. You need to hit update cart. It'll load with the new price, and then you can continue through. So I did, I think, a little out of order there, but basically it means it covered everything that I wanted to cover in about the max time. There were some good questions that came through during. If there are any final questions, it would be great to type them in here in the next 5 to 10 seconds, during which I will just again remind everyone to please email or call me with any questions. Follow us on Twitter, and you can also ask questions there. And to look out for the entry form link to go live tomorrow. We are still on schedule for that, and right now, you don't see anything, but it will be there tomorrow. Doesn't look like there are any particular questions right at this moment, so I'm going to let everyone go and remind everyone there will be access to this webinar online at revereawards.org. But thank you all for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.